The invitation to the Morrison family reunion sat on my desk, the gold lettering catching the morning light that streamed through my office window. Across its elegant surface, someone had written in angry red ink, "Diomen TSHO will your face at the reunion." The handwriting was my cousin Peter's, current CEO of Morrison Manufacturing, the company my grandfather had built from nothing. The same company I was about to save from bankruptcy, though they didn't know it yet. My phone buzzed with another message from Peter. "I mean it, Emily. Stay away. We don't need your kind of negativity at a family celebration." My kind of negativity. That's what they called my warnings 3 years ago, when I tried to tell them their manufacturing methods were becoming obsolete, when I suggested investing in automation and artificial intelligence to stay competitive. "You don't understand business," my Uncle James had sneered during that fateful board meeting. "You're just a junior analyst trying to play with the big boys." I wasn't just a junior analyst. I was a Stanford MBA graduate who had specialized in manufacturing automation, but they didn't care about my qualifications. All they saw was little Emily, the family disappointment who refused to learn the business from the ground up like everyone else. So I left, not just the company, but the country. I moved to Singapore and started consulting for manufacturing firms across Asia. Within 2 years, I had built Advanced Manufacturing Solutions, AMS, into one of the most respected names in industrial automation. My family didn't know this, of course. They thought I was still doing small-time consulting work, probably struggling to make ends meet. They had no idea that the mysterious AMS their competitors kept raving about was actually run by the cousin they'd dismissed. I picked up the reunion invitation again, remembering the last family gathering I'd attended. It was Christmas 2 years ago. I had just closed a $200 million deal with one of China's largest manufacturers. But at the Morrison dinner table, I was still a failure who had abandoned the family business. "At least Peter understands loyalty," my mother had said, pointedly ignoring my untouched wine glass. "He's tripled the company's revenue." What she didn't mention was that the revenue increase came from taking on massive debt to maintain outdated operations. I had tracked Morrison Manufacturing's decline through industry reports and insider contacts. They were 3 months away from complete collapse. My assistant knocked on my office door. "Ms. Morrison? The acquisition papers are ready." I nodded, taking a thick folder she handed me. Inside were documents showing that ANS had quietly purchased Morrison Manufacturing's debt from various banks over the past year. We now controlled every aspect of their finances, though they still didn't know who we were. Another text from Peter flashed on my phone. "Don't even think about causing trouble. The family is finally doing well without your interference." I opened my laptop and pulled up Morrison Manufacturing's latest financial report. Their stock had dropped 70% in the past month. 3 major clients had canceled contracts due to quality control issues. The automation systems I had proposed 3 years ago would have prevented those problems. My phone rang, my Uncle James's number. I let it go to voicemail. "Emily," his voice was strained, trying to maintain its usual arrogance. "The board is meeting next week to discuss some strategic changes. Your father suggested we might benefit from your expertise. Call me back." I smiled. So they had finally realized they needed help, but they still didn't know how much trouble they were really in. The next text came from my cousin Sarah. "How dare you ignore Uncle James's call, after everything the family has done for you?" Everything they had done for me? Like blocking my promotion 3 years ago. Like mocking my suggestions in front of the entire board. Like banning me from the family reunion because I dared to suggest their precious company needed modernization. I opened my safe and pulled out another document, the original contract from when my grandfather founded the company. There, in clear legal language, was the clause that would save or destroy Morrison Manufacturing. Any sale, merger, or major restructuring of the company requires unanimous approval from all living direct descendants of James Morrison Sr. That included me. My grandfather had added that clause to protect the company from hostile takeovers. He never imagined it would one day give his unsuccessful granddaughter the power to decide the company's fate. I pressed my intercom. "Janet, please send in the lawyers." 3 men in expensive suits entered my office. They had been working on this case for months, preparing for this exact moment. "Gentlemen," I gestured to the chairs in front of my desk. "It's time to discuss the Morrison Manufacturing takeover." "Are you sure about this, Ms. Morrison?" the lead lawyer asked. Once we move forward, there's no going back. Your family? My family made their choice when they banned me from the reunion. I cut him off. Now it's my turn to make a choice. I glanced at my phone, another missed call from Uncle James, two texts from Peter, and an email from my father marked urgent. Family business matter. Too little too late. I picked up my pen, ready to sign the documents that would seal Morrison Manufacturing's fate. In 3 months, when they discovered their only hope of survival required my signature, they would learn exactly who they had dismissed. The question was, would I sign to save them, or would I send back an empty envelope? 3 months after receiving that defaced reunion invitation, I sat in my Singapore office, watching Morrison Manufacturing's world crumble in real time. Their stock had just been suspended from trading after falling 90%. Their biggest lender had called in their loans. 3 board members had resigned, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Ms. Morrison, my assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your Uncle James has called 17 times in the past hour. Should I keep blocking him? Yes, I replied, turning to the wall of screens displaying news headlines. Morrison Manufacturing faces bankruptcy, historic family company on brink of collapse. Advanced Manufacturing Solutions set to acquire Morrison assets. My cousin Peter's name flashed on my phone again. This time I answered. Emily, he sounded breathless, panicked. Where have you been? We've been trying to reach you for days. I thought I wasn't supposed to show my face, I replied calmly. Isn't that what you wrote on my reunion invitation? That was different. We need you now. The company, there's this firm, AMS, they've bought all our debt. They're going to take everything unless all family members sign off on a restructuring deal. I smiled, spinning in my chair to look out over the Singapore skyline. Really? Tell me more about this AMS. There's some Asian manufacturing consultancy. Nobody really knows who runs it. Emily, please, we need your signature or everything grandfather built is gone. Interesting, I mused. And what makes you think I would help after how you've treated me? We're family, he said desperately. Despite everything, we're blood. Blood? I laughed coldly. Was I blood when you blocked my promotion? When you mocked my suggestions about automation? When you banned me from family gatherings? Silence. The board meets in an hour, he finally said. Uncle James wants you to video call in. Oh, I'll be there in person, I replied. I'm already in the building. What? But you're in Singapore. Am I? I hung up and stood, smoothing my designer suit. Through my office window, I could see the Morrison Manufacturing headquarters across the street. I had rented this office specifically for this moment. Janet, I called to my assistant. Is everything ready? She nodded, handing me a leather portfolio. The takeover documents are prepared, and the surveillance feed from the Morrison boardroom is live. I pulled up the feed on my tablet. The boardroom was filling up. My Uncle James sat at the head of the table, his face ashen. Peter paced nervously while my father stared blankly at his phone, probably trying to call me again. At exactly 2 p.m., I walked into their boardroom. The silence was immediate and absolute. Emily? My father stood up. What are you doing here? Saving the company, I replied simply, or destroying it. I haven't decided yet. What are you talking about? Uncle James demanded, but his voice lacked its usual authority. I opened my portfolio and began laying out documents. 3 years ago, I told you our manufacturing processes needed modernization. You laughed at me, so I left and built the most advanced manufacturing consultancy in Asia. What does that have to do with? Peter began, but his voice trailed off as understanding dawned. No. Yes, I smiled. Advanced Manufacturing Solutions. AMS my company. The room erupted in chaos. Uncle James jumped up, knocking over his chair. My father's face went pale. Peter looked like he might faint. That's impossible, James sputtered. AMS is worth billions. 4 billion at last valuation, I confirmed. Amazing what can happen when you actually understand modern manufacturing. I laid out the final document, the takeover agreement. You have 2 options. Option 1. I sign this. AMS acquires Morrison Manufacturing, and we modernize operations. You all keep your jobs, though with significantly reduced authority. And option 2? My father asked quietly. I send back an empty envelope. The banks call in their loans. Morrison Manufacturing declares bankruptcy, and I buy the assets at auction anyway. You wouldn't? Peter whispered. This company is your heritage too. My heritage? I laughed. The same heritage you used to exclude me? To mock me? To ban me from family events? I pulled out the defaced reunion invitation and placed it on the table. Actions have consequences. You made it clear I wasn't family. So now I'm just a businesswoman making a business decision. Uncle James slumped in his chair. What do you want? Full control, I said. I'll keep the Morrison name, but A&S will manage everything. You all become employees, nothing more. And if we refuse? I pulled up the company's financials on the boardroom screen. You have enough cash for maybe 2 more weeks of operations. After that, bankruptcy. Your choice. The room fell silent except for the quiet hum of the air conditioning. These men who had once seemed so powerful, so untouchable, now looked small and defeated. One more thing, I added, pulling out another envelope. Inside is an invitation to A&S's annual gala next month. I've seated you all at the back, near the kitchen. I believe that's where you put family members you don't respect. Peter flinched. My father looked away. The papers need to be signed today, I continued. I have other meetings to attend. One by one, they signed. With each signature, decades of arrogance and patriarchal control crumbled. Finally, only my signature remained. I held the pen, thinking about all the years of dismissal and disrespect. Emily, my father said softly. Please. I signed. Congratulations, I stood up. You're now all employees of AMS. Human Resources will be in touch about your new positions. I suggest updating your resumes. As I walked to the door, Uncle James called out, Was it worth it? Destroying your own family for revenge? I turned back. This isn't revenge, it's business. You taught me that family doesn't matter, remember? I'm just following your example. I left them there, surrounded by the ruins of their empire. My assistant was waiting outside. Should I send that empty envelope you prepared? She asked. No, I replied. This is better. Now they have to work for the cousin they banned from their reunion. The next day, Morrison Manufacturing announced its acquisition by A&S. The stock jumped 200% on the news. Analysts praised the deal as a perfect marriage of traditional manufacturing and modern technology. Only my family knew the truth, that their savior and their destroyer were one and the same. 1 month later, they all attended the A&S gala, seated at their assigned table by the kitchen doors. They watched as I gave the keynote speech announcing the successful integration of Morrison Manufacturing into the A&S family of companies. Sometimes, I said, looking directly at their table, the people you dismiss today become the people you answer to tomorrow. The audience applauded. My family sat in silence. After the gala, I found the defaced reunion invitation in my hotel room. Someone had crossed out the angry red "Dilming to SHO your face" and written instead, We were wrong. Too little, too late. I pinned it to my office wall as a reminder. Success is the best revenge, but control is even better. Now every morning they walk into a building with my name on it, working for the cousin they once banned. Sometimes the empty envelope isn't the strongest message. Sometimes making them work for you is the ultimate power move.